Hey everyone at home, Dave Sheehan coming to you from Melbourne, Australia, and this is for our new wellness project. So welcome aboard. I've got Paul Buffel. I always get you wrong, Paul. Buffel, correct?
No, Buffalo's good, but it's from Belgium originally, probably Buffel originally, but yeah, Buffalo's good.
Okay, we've got Paulie from Canada. How you going, mate?
Oh, so good, really good.
Excellent. So as I mentioned to the punters at home, this is our first edition of the Wellness Project. And one of the objectives is to really get around the world. So we will have Aubrey Gowing also joining us a little bit later on from Dublin, Ireland. And of course, Jeff Shearer from Australia. So just trying to get a perspective on how the coronavirus is affecting all of us around the world in our industry of massage myotherapy. So welcome again, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Good to see you, Dave.
All right. So firstly, we'll notice that background there. That's a very, very funky background. Let's have a little chat about that quickly.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was doing a communication to clients after we closed due to COVID, and one of the things I did was a video on self-massage and reminding people that even though we are physically distancing, some people are distancing with others at home, and not to forget to touch each other at home, that this is a healthy thing. And so this was images in that communication to clients about that video that touch is good.
Okay, well, yours is way more deeper than mine. I mean, my background is where I should be last week in Lombok. Unfortunately, I'm not in Indonesia surfing, but all the same, I'm talking to you, so that's a good thing. Hey, something of interest when I've seen you being interviewed just lately with a few other people, Broadway Health Collective. In Australia, I don't know if it's as common to have that sort of a format, but we're sort of getting off the topic of coronavirus, but I think it's really interesting just to talk really briefly about it. So what is the setup there that you have amongst your colleagues?
Well, Dave, I think it's actually also very unique here in Canada. I don't actually know another one exactly like the way we're set up. We're all independent practitioners working in the same space. And so we share the costs, we share office equipment, but nobody actually owns the business. We're all independent working together as a collective. But to tie it into COVID, one of the things that I found amazing about it is that it's got a lot of pluses around keeping costs lower, around having a really diverse group of people. We have so many interesting practitioners using different types of modalities within the same space. We have about 14 different practitioners with everything from manual lymph drainage, Thai massage, sports massage, to reflexology, Reiki, laser therapy, and osteopathy. So it's very diverse. But the challenge with a collective is that you don't have one owner or somebody who's directing the focus of the group. And so one of the things I found as a challenge with the group was to really bring it into a cohesive whole in our focus. And I think COVID has done that because we've come together tighter than we've ever done around supporting each other in our practices. And we have everything from people who financially can pay their full rent while we're going through this to others who need help, and we're able to help them as a collective, and we've all chosen to do so. So we're working together tighter on supporting each other. And then of course our clients, thinking about how do we communicate with them? How do we stay in touch with them, even though we aren't physically in the same space? And so we've come together to do all sorts of things that we never had even imagined we'd ever do, including virtual sessions as a manual therapist, which I thought, what does that mean, right?
How does that look? How does that look, a virtual session as being a manual therapist? How does that look?
Well, I wasn't quite sure what it was going to be like, and actually neither were my clients. And I had a few clients when I first started. We have an online booking system called Jane app, and it's a booking system that was built in Vancouver, British Columbia, and it's an amazing online system. And they were supposed to have an in-person conference this summer in Vancouver, and they took their entire in-person conference, had all of those presenters converted into something that they could do over Zoom. And we had 2 weeks worth of a conference on Zoom with them.
Wow.
And one of the things they did, they rolled out this program, this telehealth program. They weren't supposed to launch it until the fall. They rolled it out because of COVID. Had 10 days of like craziness where things didn't work the way they expect them to fall out. And now all of a sudden we're all using this telehealth feature. And I thought, as a manual therapist at first, I thought, well, that wouldn't be for me because what am I going to do on there? And then all of a sudden in the conference, realizing I do so much outside of just touching my clients, whether it's about talking to them about their workout program, or the follow-up that I do after they leave the clinic. All those things I can still talk to them about. And as well, because I've been doing videos on everything from self-massage techniques to how to use an ironing board as a stand-up desk. Thank you, Paula Nutting, for that little nugget.
There you go.
So these videos came out, and then I realized I was getting all these clients saying, I'd like to talk to you about these things. So I just started doing virtual sessions, and some clients, we would just talk about what they were doing to get through COVID, and just talking about strategies around breath work, around exercise, around what they were doing, positive thinking, all sorts of things like that. And some clients, I actually was talking about, okay, well, I haven't seen you for 2 weeks or a month, and it's been almost 2 months now. Let's talk about that program that I had given you when you left last time. So it was a great way to connect. And I actually connected with another person who, as you know, I was supposed to do this great retreat up north in Saskatchewan, which doesn't look like that's going to happen. Our far north is actually shut down. They've had an outbreak up there, and so nobody is leaving even their communities up there. So I'm talking with another client, and all of a sudden I realized she's got connections with Indigenous communities here in the south, and has a piece of land that she's been using for reconciliation projects. And now we're looking at the possibility of still doing a retreat with just a couple of people, still distancing, but still being able to do something with those who are interested. So the virtual sessions, it just blew my mind, all the different things that we could actually do from that I never would have thought of before.
So there's obviously been some positives that are coming out of this. People are reframing their lives in some ways, aren't they? And like you said, with the collective, you're being in a situation where it's a great example of people coming together even closer because of what's been going on around the world.
Yeah.
As far as restrictions, Paul, as far as treatment, where are you guys at the moment? Because it's important to see a global perspective on things.
Yeah. I mean, this is a perfect timing for you, Dave, because for us, we've been off almost 2 months, and we in the province of Saskatchewan, where I live, in the middle of Canada in the prairies, we've been very fortunate. We started physical distancing super early. The only cases we had at the very beginning were people traveling from outside the province in.
Yeah.
We were contained it incredibly well. So we have not seen at all the numbers we're expecting, and they're attributing all that to the early measures that we took. So now we're in we're right now in phase 1 of returning back into some kind of activity economically. So they, as far as healthcare goes, they've opened up physios, chiropractors, acupuncture, and certain businesses are allowed to open too, which is where we would stand in our clinic as massage therapy. We're in phase 2, and we're allowed to go back on the 19th, which is in just over a week. Mm-hmm. So we have been, ever since this started, within the first 2 weeks, I started renovating our space because I realized that things are not going to be normal even when we go back to normal. And so we've renovated our physical space to allow for easier physical distancing. And we had started to build a protocol for what it might look like, what kind of things we might have to do in order to practice, whether it was around PPE, physical space, disinfecting protocols, all that kind of stuff. The government, of course, came out with a very sort of general thing of what you needed to do in order to come back to work. And as usual, it's broader, and you've got all of these different occupations that have been allowed to go back on a certain date, and it doesn't always specifically relate to you. So there's been a bit of confusion around what exactly that is. And as we try and focus it and ensure that we're being as safe as we can, I think our clinic actually is one of the ones that have, because we've been thinking about it for so long, I've talked to lots of different owners and massage therapists saying that they're a little bit worried about, are they going to have everything together? Because even finding supplies is difficult. And if you haven't ordered them by now, you're not going to get them. Mm-hmm. So we ordered early. We had our protocols together. We're just refining them. And actually tomorrow, there's 4 of us that are going into the clinic, and we're going to do a video for our clients to allow them to feel more comfortable when they come back. So we're going to do a video, a client coming through the door and all the things they have to do. We have to wear masks. We have to wear either aprons or change our clothes between every client. We have to disinfecting that's touched between every client. The laundry protocol. We have hand sanitizer everywhere, spray bottles of disinfectant everywhere. And so the protocols are pretty tight, I think, and ensure to be as safe as possible, given what we know about COVID, in order to keep both practitioners and our clients safe. So that's kind of where we sit, is we're about to go back to work. We're in phase 2. There's no date for phase 3. The government's waiting to see how, as we open up the economy and people are coming back together, we're still physical distancing as much as you can. Obviously you can't do that with your client. So there's a lot of protocol around that, but between clients in the clinic and therapists in the clinic distancing, that what happens after phase 2? Do we see a surge in numbers? Do our numbers stay low? And if they do, then phase 3 is when they start opening larger things like public places where people would go for, recreation centers or things like that. But they haven't set that date yet. They're going to wait and see how these first 2 phases go before rolling that out. Yeah, no, for sure. It's interesting that there's a lot of parallel between what you're saying in Canada and what's happening here in Australia. There's been a lot of debate about the interpretation of what's coming out of the communication from government, both federal and also state. Because health is basically ultimately a state, or in your situation, you'd use the term provincial or a province. So there's each state in Australia is in a different position. Unfortunately, my state of Victoria is probably in one of the worst positions at the moment. So there are other states as of tomorrow that will be opening up into a new phase. Whereas in our state, I'm thinking Comrade Dan, as we're calling him now, our state premier, Comrade might be keeping us all closed up for a little bit longer. And he's obviously under a lot of pressure as well, the economics of things, etc. So what we'll do, we'll probably check back with you on our next wellness project and see where you guys are at. You might be through the worst of it, or again, you might get a second wave, just like what we're thinking as well here. But we're all trying to stay pretty positive. And that was a great description about how you're approaching your clinical space as well. So that gives people at home a little bit to think about also with their own spaces. So I thank you for that, Paul. We're going to get going. I'd love to talk to you for another 2 hours. You know that. And I'm sorry that I'm not there for the workshop. Oh my God, you're flicking through. Look at that. This is where the workshop would have been, Dave. Yeah. This is it. This is the Saskatchewan River. This is the retreat we would have been on. Blue sky and forest. Next time. Indeed. We're still going to go. Yeah. All right, buddy. You take care over there. Stay healthy. And we're signing off, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Hey guys, Elicia Crook here from Massage Champions. We're really excited to see you at the next conference in 2021. Massage Champions will be there to represent. Can't wait to see you guys coming along. We would like to wish you a very, very safe journey through this COVID time. We trust that you are keeping well and staying healthy and enjoying the time of being present. We can't wait to be able to connect with every single one of you when we see you in Adelaide in 2021.
Well, guys, that was really great to hear from Paul. My next person that we're interviewing today is Aubrey Gowing. Aubrey is the owner of the Orthopaedic Sports Therapy Clinic and a college director of the Holistic College in Dublin. He also presents workshops around the globe under his own banner, but also is a key instructor of Eric Dalton's work. Also author and president of the Irish Massage Therapists Association. Aubrey also is a contributor to our association's Connect broadcast show, which airs on Facebook once a month and has previously come to Australia presenting various workshops, and no doubt in the future, when he's allowed back in the country, we'll see him again. Welcome, Aubrey.
Hi, Dave. How are you doing? Thanks for inviting me onto the Wellness Project. Delighted to be here.
No problem. Well, I'm looking pretty stupid with my surfing photo in the background. You're very plain over there, aren't you, eh?
I know. We tend to be very serious here in our education system in Ireland. No, I'm only joking. I think I must have missed that line in the email about the interesting background. I'm afraid just not that interesting.
Well, if we do get you back next time for the next episode on the Wellness Project, we'll make sure that we get something good to talk to about behind you as well.
Although I would say the mountain range behind me, that's a mountain range in Chamonix. I don't know if you can see it. It's of Mont Blanc.
Oh, beautiful.
The highest peak in France. I'm an avid snowboarder, so that image just spoke to me. I've skied that mountain down the Vallée Blanche in Chamonix. It's really, really good fun. So it does have personal significance and relevance.
There is a story to tell. It's brilliant. All right. Well, let's get cracking on this. So let's just firstly talk about where you guys are at in Ireland as far as lockdown.
Yeah, we're in full lockdown. We were waiting on a government announcement, which came through on the 5th of May. And we have a phased response. There are 5 phases running all the way up towards the 10th of August. And there's a little bit of debate at the moment about whether massage therapy falls into phase 4 or phase 5. Phase 4 is the 20th of July. Phase 5 is the 10th of August. And it's an interesting distinction they're making here in Ireland, because they're talking about population-wide demand being a factor. So interestingly, they've put hairdressers and barbers into phase 4 because it's population-wide demand. They haven't specifically talked about massage therapy, but they've talked about other things like piercings. They were saying that they're going into phase 5. So where there is, I suppose, more of a niche demand, not everybody goes for a massage, unfortunately, where, I think pretty much everybody gets their hair cut. So they're putting us into phase 5. We're in consultation. There's been great cooperation. I think there are definitely positives that have come out of this pandemic. And one of the things I think is a lot of cross-discipline cooperation within different associations, different styles of bodywork coming together to share information, to help provide safe and effective care for our clients, as always. Really looking at responses to how can we safely treat clients once we do return to work, but also in communicating with government and sharing information amongst each other. So it's a really nice thing to see people talking to each other and genuinely cooperating for the benefit of all.
One of the major outcomes we've actually had there's a number of associations here in Australia that represent therapists around Australia, and for the best part, there's been a lot of cooperation and collaboration with most of the massage associations in representing sort of a one voice with statements that have gone out over time, which has been really lovely to see. Something else that you mentioned, and I think I did see it on my Facebook feed, which is to do with that publication that's out, and you mentioned it just before we've gone to air as well. So did you want to tell the guys in the audience about the free resource that's available in respect to what's going on now as far as clinic and maybe looking at reviewing the way that everyone's clinics are set up?
Yeah, because there is going to be significant changes. People oftentimes say, is life going to go back to normal? I think eventually, yes, but I think we'll have a new normal to a certain extent. And a big question that we had, I did a webinar with John Sharkey, an anatomist here in Ireland, clinical anatomist, and we had over 500 people dial in. And one of the big questions that therapists were asking is, what kind of PPE, personal protective equipment, do I need? What are the guidelines and recommendations? What are the hygiene procedures that we should be following? And I've a really good resource. I've a good friend, Eric Brown, and his wife, Ann Williams. They're based in the US. Ann has been involved with ABMP. A lot of your members might know ABMP. And they've actually put together a really thorough, they're referring to it as an e-book, but I think it's more like an e-course. It's so thorough that there is a book on, it's called Preventing Disease Transmission in Massage Practice. So I just printed off their cover sheet, obviously, because it's a digital book. But anybody can access this. So you can just go onto their webpage. It's Massage Mastery Online. I have a link to this on my personal Facebook page. So if you look for me, Aubrey Gowing on Facebook, it's on our college page, Holistic College Dublin. And you can link straight through, access this course. There's 8 chapters, and the last one is specific to a COVID-19 response. And there's just great resources. For a lot of people, I mean, on the hygiene side, it's going to be a refresh. I mean, there's a lot of good information in there that you'll already know. But then there's a lot of stuff that's very specific to how to really ramp up those hygiene responses when we're looking at dealing with clients. Because one of the points they make is that because of the insidious nature of this particular pandemic, that people aren't symptomatic for so many days, you really have to treat everybody that comes in as though they are actually carrying the virus. So it does mean that you're going to have to take a lot of precautions. And there's really great guidelines. It's a fun resource. Like, they've some good videos in there. They've all kinds of interactive stuff. There's a lot of word association and drop and drag kind of things. And there's a lot to really keep you engaged. Yeah, really recommend that. So it's Preventing Disease Transmission in a Massage Practice by Anne Williams and Eric Brown. And I really have to give them a shout out for offering this for free. Normally it's $20, which even that is very reasonable for such a good resource, but it's free to the entire massage profession at the moment.
Now, Eric Brown was a part of World Massage Conference, for a few years.
Yeah. He's been in the industry for quite a while. A lot of what he does is kind of mentor people on the business side. So he has a business for massage enterprise. He has this online mastery courses with his wife Anne, and both of them have been involved with ABMP over the years. And he works quite closely with Eric Dalton as well, which is how I came into contact with Eric Brown. Okay,
brilliant. Now, on the lighter side of things, have you picked up any new skills or recipes, or what are you doing from a mental wellness point of view? And that's partly the reason why we wanted to do these episodes, to allow people to really understand that globally, therapists are all doing it tough. But there is some other, life's slowing down, and in some ways that's kind of good. We don't want to get virus, but we're allowing ourselves to slow down a bit. So there are things that you're doing in your extra time that you have now, and how does the future look for you as well?
In terms of new skills or hobbies, I've actually been really busy, surprisingly, working on projects. I've done a lot of writing, which is great. I think the only hobby that I've tried that I haven't really given a go before is I cut my own hair. This is my Rona haircut. Yeah, so I cut my own hair for the first time a couple of days ago. So I don't know, is that a new skill? It depends on the success of the endeavor, I suppose. So I won't judge that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of positives. And I think, like you said, slowing down is a big one, that people have time for things that they normally didn't have time for. And while, yes, there are inconveniences, there are travel restrictions, there's a lot of tragedy, there is still positives to be taken. And it really is a case of what do you focus on? Because you can stress yourself out, you can be on social media, reading loads of different things, or you can take that time to spend some time in nature, even if you can't travel very far. Here we had a 2-kilometer restriction for exercise, but even just getting out in your garden, things like that make a big difference. Spending time with family, even having more time to catch up with people when it is through Skype or Zoom or whatever it is. I think for therapists, what a lot of people are saying is the time for education has been phenomenal. There are so many resources being made available. There's so much stuff that you might not normally get time to do. I think every therapist has this experience of having a library of books that they've said, I must read that, I must read that. They buy books with great enthusiasm. They read a small section. They'll go back to them and reference them from time to time. But you rarely have time to really sit down and get into something. So that is invaluable, that time to slow down.
Yeah, absolutely. So how does it look for you on the other side, Aubrey? I think we're expecting to see you out in Australia this year, which obviously you've had to reschedule. Do you still have plans for 2021?
Absolutely. It's tricky setting dates. That's the tough thing. We still have a relatively full schedule from August going forward that I think is really going to need modifying. I think that's what's caught a lot of people off guard, is the fact that it is such a rapidly evolving situation that initially, certainly here the impression was given that it was going to be a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, And if we took that kind of hard hit up front, things would return to normal. And I think we've all realized that this is much more of a rolling sort of process. And so we rescheduled. I think we're going to have to reschedule again. Even simple things like Eric's big Oklahoma seminar that attracts like 180 people every year. It's a really great experience. That was pushed back from their traditional July 4th to September. Now, I'm planning on going at this stage, but we'll have to wait and see. The Irish government is saying that if you travel outside the jurisdiction, you must self-isolate for 2 weeks when you come back. And I think it'll be the same traveling to another jurisdiction. So if you have to travel, it's going to make things very difficult because you'll have 2 weeks of isolation at your destination and 2 weeks isolation when you come back. So you're talking about a month. It is going to present a lot of challenges, and we'll have to see how that goes. But 2021, there's a lot on the schedule. I think there's going to be a lot of catch up for a lot of people that do this sort of international travel. I think it's actually going to be a very interesting time, very challenging. I think there's going to be a huge surge in the acceptance and demand and use of online resources, webinars, virtual classrooms, and things like that. I know certainly in the States, I'm not sure what it's like in different regions in Australia, but in some individual states within the US, they don't allow virtual training or online learning as part of their continuing education. It must be hands-on in class, which I can see the arguments for and against, because I think there are some areas of manual therapy that need to be experienced in class. There's some guidance that you need. But I think as your skills advance, there's an awful lot you can learn through virtual training. And what is interesting is those states have adapted, they've changed their protocols, they're allowing people to do much more virtual stuff. So I think that's a really positive thing. I think from a therapist point of view as well, it's opened up a huge amount of access to experts that they might not otherwise get to see. It's encouraged people to get over their maybe innate technophobia, that people that would say, oh, I'm not very computer literate, find it's not as big a challenge as they thought. They have the impetus now to spur them on to look at what's available. How do they figure out how to use Zoom? How do they log into a webinar? And they're finding that, I think that fear of the unknown is being rapidly dissolved for them, which I think is a real positive.
Our association's been putting on free webinars, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's been massive. They've never seen, so many people log on to the free webinars as well as other ones that are paid as well. So it's times are changing, and you're talking in terms of positive outcomes. I think that's definitely one of the positive outcomes. So we've got a little bit more time just to chat. You've got courses coming up or rewritten, I know that you've done a lot of taping courses in the past. So have you got new developments coming up in those areas?
Yes, it's funny because these projects have oftentimes been on the go for quite a while. I thought it was interesting that I was getting back to edit video that I'd actually filmed in 2018. Wow. We're getting a lot of time now to do things that we weren't doing before, personal passion projects. And we've put together an online taping course. There's going to be a separate upper body, lower body, and then a combined course. There's a book to go with that. So quite a bit of time for writing. So this is my second book now that I've just completed, literally putting the finishing touches to now. And then I'll be moving on to my third book, which I've about 2 or 3 chapters written on. I know people who have bought my first book, which was Myoskeletal Sports Therapy Techniques for the Lower Body. Quite a few people have been saying, when's the upper body coming out? Good. Shoulders, necks, such common areas for people. So we're getting back to that now fairly soon too.
All right, fantastic. We're obviously keeping very busy. And again, many thanks for coming on our Wellness Project episode number 1. And we'd love to have you back again and just see how things are progressing in your country as well from a COVID point of view as well. So many thanks, Aubrey, for coming along, and we'll hope to see you again soon.
I'd like to say thanks, Dave, for having me on. It's great to be on the first episode. Looking forward to the next one. And I'd also like to say a quick thank you to all of the therapists around the world, in Australia and in every other jurisdiction, for really supporting the initiatives and abiding by government recommendations, that I think everybody really has pulled together. So I'd say well done to your audience too. Absolutely. And no doubt we're going to see some more segments of Aubrey Gowing on our Connect show coming up as well. So stay tuned, folks, for that. All right. Thanks again, Aubrey. Thanks, Dave. Take care. Cheers. Well, thanks very much, Aubrey. That was a fantastic interview.
Next up, we've got Jeff Shearer. Jeff Shearer lives in Newcastle. Jeff's been in private practice for around about 24 years. His practice styles have ranged from small mobile massage business all the way through to a multiple practitioner practice. In that time, he's told us that he's made lots of mistakes. Through experience, he's learned very much about what it takes to develop successful and a sustainable practice. 10 years ago, Jeff became strongly aware of how many practitioners fail to survive in practice, and he developed ethical practice, an information-based service designed to help practitioners overcome the hurdles we all face in practice today. Jeff, welcome.
Thanks, Dave. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm going okay, mate. I'm going okay. It's been strange times. Yeah, the beach. I was explaining to the last two guys because I wanted to put something up that sort of represents something maybe that you miss. Yeah. So last week I was supposed to be in Lombok surfing in Indo. So I thought So that's a photo from my trip last year to Lombok, which I fell in love with. So that's me. But what about you? You're just a coffee fiend or something, as I sip on my coffee.
I think certainly I like my coffee, but one of the things that I really enjoy these days is being able to go into a cafe and work. So probably, once, twice a week, I'll go into a cafe and just sit down with a laptop and work for a few hours. So my partner and I, we both run our own businesses. So on Fridays, what we normally do is we sit down and we go through our big grand plan and what we're looking at. Do we need to add anything to that? Sort of it's over about 12 months. And then sort of have a look at, what are the things that we're maybe struggling with or we need to focus on for the next week. And then we just sort of get into it and we're tapping away on our laptops. And there's a great little dog cafe that we normally go to, run by a lovely Japanese crowd. And so we're sort of almost part of the furniture. It doesn't look quite like it's a warehouse, but and you're obviously your coffee.
Yeah, exactly. It's finally arrived. Hey, apart from unable to work in your cafe so much, but what about from a clinical point of view? I mean, where are things at with you? We're sort of we're not going exactly live with this, but we're getting close. Tomorrow we'll go live. So the info that you give is kind of up to date. So do you know where you're at as of today in New South Wales?
Yeah, so basically, Dave, I'm classified as allied health because I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner. So we're under registration with APRA. So legally, we were allowed to stay open. I was saying to you before, I ended up having to go into isolation for a week because one of my clients was an international pilot who developed some symptoms, and so he had to get tested. Now, under the circumstances, technically, I didn't have to, but we just kind of felt it's kind of the right thing to do, I suppose, to make sure our clients stay safe. Fortunately, it's negative. And just as we were about to, I was just gearing up to start back into practice, pretty much full tilt. It was, the infection rate was growing exponentially, and we just made a decision to close the clinic completely, where we basically decided that would be until we thought it was the right thing to do to open up again. So we were closed for a month. In that time, we ran telehealth sessions for our clients. So we're obviously herbalists as well. So what we did was, because quite a lot of people were struggling financially, people losing jobs, a lot of stress, that sort of stuff. So we just decided to do those telehealth consults for free, and people could pay for the herbs and come and pick them up from the mailbox. But what we asked is if someone had a job or they had, a decent amount of money, that they just spend what would have been the consult fee out in the local community with a small business that's struggling, just to try and sort of, you've got to sort of re-engage with the community a bit through these sorts of times and bring it together, because, through isolation as it can be, there becomes that real sort of segregation. So we decided to do that. We opened a skeleton clinic last week, where normally, as an acupuncturist, I run 2 rooms, and we just decided to run one room. We've completely rewritten our infection control management plan off the current NHMRC February 2020 guidelines, so they're quite new. We spent about 3 weeks going through and completely rewriting it, and we've got some pretty serious protocols in place. We've got a temperature check at the door, patient declaration. We basically, when someone leaves, we wipe down all the surfaces. It's got this really tight kind of thing going on, and part of that is obviously we need to legally. But also part of it we found really interesting is when we announced to our clients we were reopening and the protocols that we'd implemented, they were really impressed how detailed we were about it, and increase that sense of trust.
That's fantastic. And this show is about trying to find little snippets of positiveness also about where we're at. And I think that's kind of a theme that's showing through. It was definitely with Paul and Aubrey as well, talking about how serious practitioners are reviewing their protocols. They're actually taking a good hard look at how they do things. And on the other side, the loser is going to be, I think, the influenza, because people are really starting to. Well, they are. They're looking at ways in which they can mitigate against getting a flu or a cold. So everyone's stepping up with it. So you'd have to say it's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, as I said, we previously had an infection control management plan, and because we do skin penetration, it's a lot more serious than practitioners that are, say, just doing massage therapy, but aren't using needles. And we just decided, because we had the time, to just rip the whole thing up and start from scratch. And it's been a really good process to go through for us to nail down some areas where we thought, you know what, maybe we were sort of sliding a little bit here. So certainly for us, I think it's, there's been a positive aspect to it. Yeah.
And have you done any sort of communications apart from obviously your free consults, but have there been other ways that you've, I guess, kept your customer base sticky with your business?
Yeah, good term, sticky. I like it. We've just originally we were looking at doing some Facebook Lives and things like that, but to be honest, the motivation, like I think a lot of people, just really wasn't there. So we ended up doing a lot of phone calls to clients, just checking in with them, seeing how they're coping, seeing how they're going. With those telehealth sort of consults, what we were doing is, if someone didn't, need herbs or whatever, we'd give them some, say, meditation guidance. We might show them a few stretches to do, that sort of stuff. We use a great program called PhysiTrack. I'm in no way affiliated with them, which has, I think it's 3,500 sort of stretching, strengthening exercises. So we can tailor a program for that person, and it has a video of those exercises, and just contacting people and saying, hey, how are you coping? How are you holding up? And interestingly for me, what I've been really aware of, because I also know that there's certainly been some people out there that have been struggling with that social isolation, but the large majority of people I've been speaking to have been really enjoying it, having some time out. Clients are saying it's great having to stay at home because now I don't have to go out and do stuff.
So on that point, is there anything that you've picked up, a new skill or a new recipe that you've cooked? Or is there something that...
So I've been, in a past life, I was a landscaper.
Yeah.
And basically 5 weeks ago, our backyard was a pile of dirt, and I've paved it. I've put in gravel pathways, veggie patch. So to be honest, I've been having a great time. I've been outdoors. I think I've lost about 8 kilos. So maybe not a new skill, but certainly some of the paving I did wasn't something I've done before, so it was a little bit challenging.
So that's obviously looking after your own mental health as well, I guess, yeah?
Yeah, look, I'm kinesthetic by nature, so I'm someone that likes to be physically active. And so for me, going out in the garden is one of the great things to do, is just to be physically active, have my hands on things. and create some. The beauty also is there's a creativity element to it, so you're tapping into right brain stuff. So it's for me it's a good thing, and it has highlighted to me, I suppose, that it's good for me to spend more time doing that. When I'm working in the clinic full tilt, you get to the end of the week and you're like, oh, I can't be bothered. I just want to have a day off and not think about it. But it's really highlighted to me that I maybe need to sort of implement a bit of a structure around that half a day a week I'm out in the garden tinkering away.
So that sort of leads into my final question. So looking at post-COVID, that's kind of where you're heading. You're looking at restructuring your life a little bit. You've always had you've always lived by what you've presented in workshops, in that you've been a very balanced sort of person. But is there anything extra that you can find in yourself from a balance point of view?
Look, it's interesting. I was sitting out the back the other night by the outdoor fire that we've put in, and just having a bit of a ponder. And I think the thing that's been really interesting for me is when the shutdown occurred and we decided to close, and they announced here in New South Wales that it was going to be until the 29th of June, my initial reaction was like, ooh, that's a long time. And then it was like, fantastic, this is going to be great. When obviously, income-wise it hurts, absolutely no doubt. We're fairly fortunate that he's planned ahead and created a buffer zone. It's taken a good few years to be able to do that. So we've essentially got 12 months of income available if we need it. Mm-hmm. So that's made it a lot easier in that respect. So the stress there was a lot easier. But what I did find was, normally I see probably about 40 people a week. And over the years I've found, I used to work 6-7 days back in the day. Over the years I've found there seems to be a new line that gets set at different periods of my life as to how many clients is okay, and then how many clients starts to drain me. And I think, coming out of this, I think I'm probably going to drop it down to about 30 a week. And essentially I can sort of do that in 3 days. It sort of gives me a lot of space to be able to, obviously do the training business stuff, which, sort of feeds my soul as well, but also, again, get out in the garden, go and catch some waves.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, Jeff, well, look, we're going to leave it there. We'd love to have you back again. We're looking at running this wellness project once a month, so it'd be nice to check back in with you in a month's time and see where you're at, see if things have changed. Hopefully they've changed in a positive way. We don't get that second wave. That the waves are kept out on the beaches of Newcastle for you. So yeah,
absolutely, mate.
Okay.
Mate, lovely to talk to you as always. Stay safe and hope everyone is navigating this as best they can. One of the things that I found for me out of this was let go of what you can't control and just adapt to what you need to.
Absolutely. It only causes you more stress, with things that are out of your control. So
yeah,
good words to finish with, Jeff. All right. We'll catch you next time.
Nice to see you, buddy. Take it easy.
Cheers, bud. Bye.
Hi guys, Michelle Vassallo from Rhythm Massage Development and Education. I've been working closely with MMA to come up with a few little tips and tricks and ideas for keeping ourselves positive during this lockdown. And it's been a challenge, it's been a big challenge for me, and I know that for all of you, or many of you that are watching, it's been a challenge for you as well, especially considering massage therapists and massage therapy has been in a really confused space in terms of whether or not we can still work, how long we won't be working for, how do our clients and our colleagues feel about what's going on. So, there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of rhetoric, there's a lot of uncertainty and confusion. We all feel it. So what can we do ourselves to create a more positive mindset? And, I've been homeschooling as well, and, I've come to discover about myself that there's a reason I teach adults and not children, But one of the cool things about what my youngest son has been experiencing is the online schooling is set up towards what his school terms a growth mindset. So the growth mindset was a definition or a theory for me. I kind of understood it, but now that I'm homeschooling him, I'm really getting what a growth mindset is all about. And so I thought about translating that for you guys out there listening, and also for myself. And what's one of the things about a growth mindset is to have an open mind about what we're going through, and have an inquiring mind, a mind that's curious and willing to learn. So one of the things that I've been doing to assist myself is thinking about what physical condition I'm going to be in when I go back to teaching and massaging. And you know, for a lot of you, you've been off work now for several weeks, and so the reality is that your massage fitness is not what it was when this whole global lockdown started. But one day soon, fingers crossed, we will be back in the massage room, and our clients will be coming in, and hopefully we'll be fully booked again. And the reality is that for you as a physical therapist, it's going to be a challenge going from no massages to massaging again. So one of the things that you can concentrate or focus on for yourself, and also this is what I've been doing, is maintaining your physical fitness, your massage fitness. Massage fitness, as we all know, is different to the gym fitness or fitness for a triathlon. We need endurance. We are working at sub-aerobic levels. There are so many things going on in the massage room, not just physically, but emotionally as well as, you know, mentally in that space. And so what we need to do for ourselves is take charge of our self-care. So what are you doing to support your massage fitness during this lockdown? Are you continuing to look at elements of self-care such as exercising to keep yourself fit for when you go back to work? Have you been looking and maybe considering the way that you have been working and thinking about a change, or the things that you've wanted to shift but you haven't had time to address? All of those things we actually have time to do now. So this is about not only this lockdown and what's happening, but for massage therapists, it's a time of professional development. Think about the things that you've wanted to address as a massage therapist specific to your massage career or a myotherapist. Think about those things and start to list them down and add them into your daily routine. Think about what you need to go back to being fully equipped to do massage, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 massages a day. And then think about the toll that it's going to take on your body if you haven't been maintaining your massage fitness. One of my friends in another state went back to work the other day and did 2 massages, and he called me later and he said, "Wow, I can't believe it, but I'm so tired after doing 2 massages." And he's only been off for maybe a month and a half now, and he's used to doing a lot more massages during the day. So that got me thinking, guys, think about your self-care. Think about what you want to implement. Think about the fact that right now you've got time to do it, and think about how that's actually going to enhance your career and your experience as a massage therapist and your enjoyment of being a massage therapist when you get back into the massage room. So it's all about massage fitness. Sitting and considering and doing all the things that we need to do is great, and yes, we do need to do those things, the quiet time, the adapt and improvise, but we also need to be massage fit. So think about it, work out the way that you want to address it, and go for it. That's over and out from me for today. Bye guys.